seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Minutes of the last meeting were distributed. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Motion to approve. Mays, second. Ambrose. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, business come before the committee. I think most of you probably will remember. Corey Cummins from SmartWatt is with us. They've been here on more than one occasion talking about programs to review potential energy savings at the various buildings. And one of the early parts of that was them coordinating that sort of thing at the Law and Justice Center with ComEd. And I think Alina distributed copies of the documents that came from that. And with that, Lori's here to review that, answer questions about it. And also, we're kind of at that point, if we want to move forward, we need to enter into an agreement, actually request proposals for agreements. We'll talk about that. So with that, Lori?
Thanks, Mike. So what we obviously went through and did this, and I gave you guys kind of a summary of that initial assessment that we provided you guys, and we can get you a full copy of that. I just didn't want to weigh the meeting down because we went over that for about an hour last time we were here, and I don't want to put you to sleep again. But essentially what we wanted to do, there was this program, the Building Tune-Up program through ComEd. We were looking to do this investigation as part of the larger initiative anyways, but by doing it separately, ComEd actually pays for it. So that reduced that energy service cost to you guys if you did move forward with that larger project. And if you don't move forward with that larger project, then this is still available to you. So that we basically allowed you guys to pull that out and not be stuck doing this larger project if you didn't want to, and you can still take advantage of this program. So it was about a $3,500 investigation that we did that ComEd paid for. So that was just a free engineering, and this basically is the investigation report. Essentially our findings, so our focus was the Johnson control system and the Law and Justice, because it has to be kind of a newer system. The system in the jail didn't qualify because it's just too antiquated. It just really needs to be replaced at this point, so there was not really anything that made sense to tweak that. But the Johnson system, essentially what we came up with was a value of a project that's around $24,000, and with incentives and the payback, it actually makes an incentive payback of about 1.2 years. So it's a nice project that's going to get you a lot of bang for your buck. So that's basically what we found out with this investigation. And then what we would do is that could be incorporated into the larger project, and now you guys get to take advantage of some of that savings that ComEd offers. But like I said, if you decide not to move forward with a larger project, then we can come back and revisit this, and maybe there's a couple things in here that you want to just kind of pick off and just move forward in that way. But really, so essentially where we're at, like Mike just mentioned, as part of the Guaranteed Savings Contract project and the legislation for the Local Government Energy Conservation Act, there's a procurement requirement, and the only requirement is that you procure our services as basically a partnership. So that's where we're at. Essentially, we would assist you guys in putting a request for qualifications out, and I don't know if you received copies of what that document looks like, but we basically provide that as a cookie cutter document with just some highlighted things that need to be filled in. So it's pretty basic. We put about a dozen of these out this year for other counties in the state. So it's something it's worked really well for the other counties, and it helps really streamline that process, so it's a lot off your guys' shoulders, and we kind of help you facilitate that. What it really is meant to do is, as I mentioned, partner with us. So we'll provide our qualifications just to show that we are capable to do a project like this, and then our competitors will essentially come in now. The Johnson Controls of the world, some other regional guys, the Honeywells, the Siemens, so a lot of the manufacturers out there. They'll come in and potentially be interested in this project, and you guys will then review those qualification packages and select the company you want to move forward with. And that process doesn't have any commitment to you. Once you select the company, then you will negotiate an investment grade audit agreement with that company. And that investment grade audit is essentially where we will come out and provide firm fixed prices on all the items that we've been talking about. And then you guys really get to customize your project from there. So you might just select one of those items and that's it, you know, or you might select a larger project. And that's really going to be up to you. You guys get to fully customize the whole thing and maximize the savings. The project financials on this sheet here. So I basically kind of highlighted some of the things and showed what we looked at or what we were looking at just initially in those facilities that are listed on there. Obviously the health department is kind of a wild card. That's probably going to fall off that list, but there's still plenty of other items within the other facilities that we think, you know, that the building automation system and the jail and the LED lighting and the water conservation, there's a lot of good stuff there. And we were estimating about a net 20-year benefit to the county, about $1.4 million. So that's essentially, that's all money that would be going to ComEd if you didn't complete this project. And now you get to kind of reinvest that into your facilities and into the, you know, into your county budget. So that's where you guys are kind of getting the opportunity to put that money towards better use. Are there any questions on that?
Sure. If I understood right, you would provide us with some sort of a scope of project, which then we could use to bid out the work to other suppliers of that service?
We would
And
implement the project.
We would then compare that with the $20,000 that you offer to do the work.
So this is completely separate. So we wanted to do this just to kind of help you guys out with some free money from ComEd. The actual comprehensive project, this pricing wouldn't apply to that. So what we would do is once you select us, we would facilitate the bid process. We would look at local contractors, look at whoever was interested in doing the electrical, the mechanical, and we would do the bidding with them for you guys. So you wouldn't, it wouldn't be a public low bid procurement process at that point. The only procurement that's required is to get our services, and then we will oversee the entire project turnkey through installation, and then we're actually required to come back a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later to verify that savings for you guys, because we have to guarantee it. So if we guarantee you're going to save $100,000 a year and you only save 80, we have to write you a check for the difference. And that's really where the accountability comes in these projects versus a traditional low bid procurement where there's no accountability. If something goes wrong, it's on you guys, unfortunately, and that's kind of how that process usually plays out.
So during the second bid process, you don't participate in that type of bidding. You are acting more as the representative for the county and so.
Yeah, once you select us, we basically become your right-hand man, and we're part of you guys, and we just facilitate the process from there on out.
What's the cost of that service?
So when we get to that point, we usually talk about there's a fee associated with it, but that fee is waived if you move forward with a self-funding project. So it might, if you just say we're going to do a lighting project, that fee's waived. So that's typically, you know, a ballpark percentage of the overall. And every company has a different fee associated with it, but it's not meant to be something that you pay. It's just there to show that you guys are committed to doing something, because there is a lot of effort that will go in from our standpoint, from an engineering standpoint, because we're actually going to go around and put instrumentation in all the buildings to test occupancy, because we have to guarantee this thing within, you know, on the nut. So we want to make sure that we put our due diligence in and make sure.
Just before we go any further with questions or anything, make sure everybody understands this document that you got a copy of is a request for proposals. It's boilerplate. Actually, the county has done this once before, a few years ago. It was the H&E building. Did go out and all. Nothing ever came of it. But the point is, this is not committing us to smart one. This is requesting proposals. They will make a proposal. Johnson Controls, Siemens, there's other players in the field can make proposals. So as far as moving forward with a small project or a bundle of projects or a large project, that will be up to the county guess, negotiating with or having an understanding with whoever is successful with the proposal. Right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you
the
understand,
proposal- they're-
we are at the point where we're dealing with smart watt for projects. I mean, the projects and investigations, everything, depending on who does it, aren't gonna be that much different. It's just a matter of looking at their qualifications, looking at their fee arrangements and what they're guaranteeing and that sort of thing. So with that, other
And
questions?
how will they know? We put notice in the paper? How will we?
Yeah, so there's basically a summary of this that'll go in the paper, and then they'll call to get this document. Or what happens is required in the legislation is that it gets posted to the Capital Development Board. So that's really how everyone's gonna find out about it. It's an online database that's meant for procurement in the state of Illinois. So everyone that participates in these type of projects will actually get an email the second it gets posted. So that's how everyone's gonna know.
Same way as road projects and that sort of thing, capital development. Contractors that do the kind of work, they know where to look.
And typically, there's 3 to 5 companies like us that will show up to those. We've done a lot more counties than most, so sometimes they'll see that, because we have to put in there that we helped you guys with this. So sometimes that might keep them from coming, but other than that, you know, they might come and just see if they're interested in it. Because really, a lot of our larger competitors they have minimum project sizes, unlike us. So if they see a potential $300,000 project, they're gonna be like, I don't wanna waste our time on that. That's something we're happy to do for you guys. So that's something just to keep in mind with, when looking at different companies for these projects.
So your guarantee at the end of the project is that all our, whatever expense we had with you or with the people who do the actual work, will be recovered in a 2-year period or whatever.
Yeah, it'll just depend on what gets done. Typically, they're between 10 and 15-year terms on these projects. So it's essentially,
So it's 10 or 15 years, okay.
yeah, so that's typically, you're looking at longer payback items that are mechanical items, things like that are typically 30 to 40-year paybacks, and this project's meant to use some of those quicker items, partner them together, and put something in that kind of ballpark range. And that's where we kind of like to stay, because that's usually, most of the equipment that you're getting has got 15 to 20-year life expectancy, sometimes 25, 30. So you want to get some useful life out of them by the time they're paid off. But you know, you're going to get savings day one. The goal is to get you a surplus every year, and that's what we typically see is, you know, $5,000 or $6,000 a year surplus, and the project's paying for itself. So there's no out-of-pocket costs from the county, no upfront costs. So it's not like your traditional return on investment, because you're not making an investment. You're essentially using money that's already budgeted. You're spending it either way, but now basically what we do is create a 4th utility for you. So electric, gas, water, energy savings utility. And that amount of money is taken from those other 3 utilities, because we saved you guys money on those, and that pays for the project, if that makes sense.
What's this payback then with incentives, 1.2 years?
That's for the ComEd investigation.
But that's already been paid for?
No, the investigation has, but the project has not been implemented. So what we would do is look to do this maybe as part of the investment grade audit, and then reimburse you the money that you put into it right away once the project kicks off. So there's some different ways we could structure that, but we just wanted to do this because the investigation was paid for. So that fee for our IGA, subtract $3,500 from that already, because we did this report, essentially is what that is.
And most of what's proposed here are, I guess, system changes. It's not a whole lot of new equipment, you know, there's not a lot of capital expense up front. It's tuning the building so you aren't cooling and heating as much during hours that it's closed, you know. It's that sort of thing that's being proposed here. And that's why the quick savings, because you're not buying new chillers and motors and
Right.
that sort of thing.
When you say quick saving, you're talking about 15 years.
Not on this one. not on this particular
Right,
investigation.
so that would be something that's around a year, and then you partner it with something that's like 25 years, and then it averages out to 10, 12 years, somewhere in that range. And that's kind of what these projects are really helpful with.
This one standalone would be quick, but there again, if it becomes part of a bigger project, then the 15-year ones and this one, you know.
But when I think about this, I think about our partnering with, when they built the Law and Justice Center. We had, what was it, Deegan and Associates or whatever, I don't know what the name, no, what the company was, whatever the company was that was our experts on watching the construction, making sure that they did everything right. What was the name of that company?
Frederick Quinn.
Pardon?
Frederick Quinn.
Frederick?
They're the construction manager.
Right.
Yeah.
And we paid them a lot of money to be our eyes and ears with the project. And now, and then we got all these ADA non-compliance issues that, in my opinion, they should have caught. So I guess
And that's literally why this legislation was put into place in the 90s, is because of those circumstances. Because most low bid procurement projects have change orders and have issues. These projects cannot have change orders. You have to own every single thing that happens. So if we screw something up like that, that's on us. So that's why these projects are fully guaranteed and virtually risk-free. I'm not gonna say they're risk-free because there's always some sort of risk. They're virtually risk-free for the county. And you're, like I said, you're just using money you're already spending and just saying, all right, SmartWatt, do these things. That's gonna create this $1.4 million of long-term savings for the county, is really what the goal is.
Yeah, it would be nice if similar legislation were in place for those circumstances, because whatever we spend to correct issues, Frederick Quinn would have been liable for.
And we're attached to you for that 10 years or that 12 years, whatever it is. So we have to keep coming back every year to show you guys the exact savings that you're getting. So, you know, sometimes there's hesitation to leave this for future board members, but we're gonna keep, SmartWatt's still gonna be here. We're gonna keep coming back and showing them the savings that you guys produce from doing this project. And potentially, you know, which isn't calculated, is the emergency replacement of equipment that is antiquated that we're gonna proactively replace and things like that, and help save on maintenance costs. And Don's pretty stretched thin as it is, so some of these things will help him focus his time on things that are a little more vital to comfort and to safety and things like that, which are the most important things in the facilities.
How long has your company been in business?
16 years.
Maury, you know, I believe in the concept of what you're doing, and, you know, I appreciate partnering with you to do it. I think the concept's really, really good, but there's so much that I know I personally do not understand about this whole thing about part of it or all of it, and you know, how we're gonna manage it, the whole project, the payback. Maybe I'm the only one, but I don't understand exactly what
Well, I
is
appreciate
being.
it, because I felt like I was the only one asking, you know, because I don't understand it.
I don't
And I guess
either. I mean, I'd like to have a better handle on the exact, and maybe I'm just simple.
No, the project, this process takes a long time because it's very sequential. It's step by step by step, because we want you guys to feel 100% comfortable with that next step before we take it on.
Well, that's my trouble, is not understanding, I guess, the steps and
Well, but there again,
everything.
we don't know who we're gonna be dealing with. Now, once we get proposals, then we review them, and we ask those kind of questions of SmartWatt, Siemens, Johnson, whoever we're deciding to partner with. So right now, we're asking for companies that are in this arena for proposals, and those proposals should spell out the steps, how they go about it, one thing and another, and obviously, we're going to ask questions.
But he said the jail, public safety complex is too old to be included.
No, the control system
In the tune-up, yeah.
is too
Probably
old
should
for a
have
tune-up project.
kept these separate,
Okay.
because this is,
Can't tune up a Model A.
Well, you
All
can't.
these,
Well,
all these savings obviously are not gonna come from changing light bulbs, so you are talking capital request here on down the line, which would probably be
there
energy
wouldn't be any
savings.
capital use.
I mean, we gotta be looking at capital requests here in the next years.
hard cost. Motors, pumps.
What would our hard
Well, I
cost
know,
be?
I mean, there's-
Yes,
Raise our
yes,
refrigerator
and that's
We
where
don't
the
know
savings
until we
is.
select somebody to do the
That's
investigation.
what
That's help, I mean,
And you're saying that once we've selected Johnson Control, that he's out of the picture. And I guess I don't think that's true. If I understood it, is that he is our eyes and ears, he's us.
Once you
If we
select
select
Johnson,
them.
then we're gone. That means you said, get out of here, Smart Lot, we don't like what you've been doing. And then we're gone, and then Johnson's sitting in the seat explaining the process to you guys, or Siemens, or wherever you guys live. So we initiate the process because we know that it's very confusing and there's a lot of moving parts to it, and that you realistically wouldn't move forward with a project without seeing some of this stuff and seeing what it could be. So we want to put that time in with you guys, make a commitment to you before asking you to make a long-term commitment to us based off of a book of qualifications that could mean deadly squat, because it's references that obviously no one's going to put a bad reference in the qualification package, but there is an opportunity for you to call other board members that we've worked with in the state of Illinois and ask them how their process went and why they went forward with it. So this qualification review helps you guys kind of decide if this is something that is a good fit. And realistically, we go through these, and 2/3 of the time, the county moves forward with a project, but the other third, they decide it's not a good fit. And it's just from that review and what they found out. And it's not for everyone. We do see some things that are capital items that this savings from the energy efficiency items will pay for. They're costs that are coming to you guys in the next 3 to 5 to 7 years. And this is just a way to proactively replace them using savings from other items like lighting. We didn't even look at solar yet, but the rebates for solar in the state right now are the best in the country. So there's some really good opportunities there. Water conservation's huge. We already found out there's some good opportunities by doing some upgrades to the Johnson system. So there's a lot of good things. But really at the end of the day, you guys get to choose. So if you decide that lower, quicker payback, energy efficient items are your focus, then that's the direction we go in. But it's really something we'll work with you guys on, and we'll literally come back to you with an Excel spreadsheet with 30 things on it, and you guys are going to go yes, no, yes, yes, no, and see how each one of those affects the project, affects the term. We'll show the savings. It's all open book pricing, so we're not trying to hide anything from you guys. You'll see everything in front of you, and you'll be like, that doesn't make very much sense. Let's go no on that. Or that does make a lot of sense, which do that. I think it'll be helpful for SmartWatt to help us with that process. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of moving parts, and I completely understand that. And that's why this next step is big, because it helps you learn a lot, but it still doesn't commit you to anything. So it gives you that opportunity to say, all right, let's ask the questions, ask other companies the questions. Maybe their answers are different than mine, but most likely they will be.
I guess where I got the drift that you were going to be our representative was that you, if I heard you right,
If we're selected, then yes, we will be.
Yes, and if I heard you right, you said that you would be the contact person for Siemens or Johnson Control, or you would
Only if
review their
Only if we
bids.
subcontracted to them. Like if we did something we might have to hire Johnson to do certain things because it's proprietary. One of the reasons not to have it
But that would be if you were selected.
Correct. This next part is where we basically partner with you guys. So unfortunately, we have to bring in the competition, but that's part of the legislation, and it's the best, it's the fairest thing for you guys to make sure you're getting instead of just going with SmartWatt, not knowing a ton about it. So it gives you an opportunity
Are
to
you
look more.
guys the only one that actually comes out and does these? I mean, is Johnson Controls going around doing this?
No, not really for smaller
Okay.
opportunities, but they focus on schools and larger 5-10.
I understand what you're doing. It'd be like my whole household, I wanna save money, I need to go out and buy a new refrigerator, new stove and that, but I have to put the money up front to buy those things. That's where I say the capital has to
Right.
come from. And
The bigger guys, what they'll do is they'll take your utility bills, they'll take a percentage that they think they'll save, and then they'll give you a snapshot of a range of potential savings. We went a step further and gave you what we actually thought you were gonna save, based off of other projects that we completed, so these numbers are pretty solid. And then we'll go through the audit to firm them up for you, and guarantee them and fix
So
them.
your company has workers that install.
We can do installation, but we're gonna do the most cost effective, and also we wanna use local manpower, because we want you guys to, this money's getting spent somewhere, and we want that to stay in the county as best as possible.
Well, you say you get it, okay, and we've got Johnson Controls here. Are you just telling Johnson Controls then, if you have the project to come in and you want some other kind of, you want an upgrade in their control? Or,
In the law and justice, we would do that, yes, because it doesn't make sense to replace the system. It would just not be cost effective for you guys.
so you're,
So in that situation, we would sub, and then the new system in the jail, we could put in a JCI system, or we could put in a non-proprietary system, whatever, you know, Don's comfortable with, whatever you guys are. Because we're not a manufacturer like Johnson, so we're not gonna just use a certain product, we're gonna use whatever works for you guys, or whatever.
you're gonna be the manager.
Yeah, so we're gonna provide the engineering, and then we're the GC after that. We're general contractor, we manage the project, we bring in people that do a really good job, but they're still competitive price-wise, and then we guarantee their work. So they work for us.
They would be the manager if we gave them the project. They wouldn't be the manager if we selected somebody else.
Right. I understand that now. I
I'm
did.
getting there.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying.
No, it's a lot of conversation, and we'll get, you know, to where you guys feel comfortable, at least on what the process is like. It doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna wanna do it, but you'll at least understand.
Because I've heard of Johnson Control or Honeywell, I've never heard of Smart Lock.
Yeah, because they're manufacturers. So one of the things we put in this as a requirement is what percentage of your business is for energy conservation projects. So ours is 100%. Those guys are maybe 25%. Because they manufacture a product, and their goal is to get that product into your facility, and that's where they make their money.
Okay, so if we, say we approve this project and go with you, and you bid it out, Johnson Control, and they come in and they'll say, I wanna put, whatever it is, replace this motor. And do you have the opportunity to say, no, we don't like that motor, it's not cost efficient enough, we want you to go with
Correct.
this other.
You're gonna.
We're
define-
gonna design it, and then we're gonna have a scope of work that they're gonna just bid on. So they're not gonna have any say on the solution. We're gonna design the solution ourselves. We subcontracted to Johnson Controls on a lot of projects. It's very something we've done quite a bit.
Don, what are you seeing out there at the jail? I mean, as far as replacing everything out there?
No, doesn't need to all be replaced. The management system, the HVAC management system,
The equipment's fine.
yeah, the equipment's all right. It's like anything else, sure, we're going along, we're replacing motors and valves as we go, you know, over the years. But he, talked to your engineer, he found someone that thought he could update our Allerton system. Our Allerton system is the same thing as we have here as Johnson Controls in these buildings. And he thinks that he thought he could maybe upgrade that, which would be a lot less cost in replacing another system. That he would have to take a look at it first.
That would be part of the investigation, and could well be a recommendation.
And we would have multiple options for you guys. We say, this is what it would be to do this is what it would be to do that. So you guys can decide. The savings is gonna be different for whatever measure, but yeah, if you can upgrade an existing system and not have to replace any equipment, and it's just manpower, then
That system was
gonna be
simple
very
to operate compared to what we
the Allerton system is a little bit easier. But Allerton's becoming a
Well, we
product,
know
so
we're
there's
gonna have to
no,
replace computers regardless of what we do out there.
Is that
Right, John?
system made?
it's not that particular one, but Allerton's still
They're
manufactured.
doing business.
Yeah. But there's actually companies in the area that service Allerton systems, so finding someone to service the system won't be as tough as it was to finally found someone for the JCI system, but it took a lot of headache to get there.
So what we're doing is, I think, at least what I'd like to do, is make a recommendation that the board release this RFP. And Alina's looked at it, it's very, very similar to the one we had before, and obviously it would be, all the customer names, I mean, all those things need to be filled in, and with the state's attorney approval, which we always do.
Does this go to full board or the finance?
It doesn't normally go to the full board when we release an RFP, but when we select the contractor, it does. That's
So we
normally our
can get this
process.
out
Yeah.
as soon as Randy has a chance to look at it.
So once the results came back and you you decided who you wanted to go with, then that contract would be forwarded to the full board. Yeah.
And you would go to finance to explain.
They would go to finance once they've done everything that they're going to do, their whole investigation and the investment that's required. They'll bring the platter of options to this committee. You'll decide what you think should be recommended. That recommendation will be forwarded to finance, which will be forwarded to the full board.
Right, whatever company we chose.
The company itself would not necessarily go to finance. It's the, because you're,
The proposal for investment, whether it's smartwatch, Johnson Controls, or
Whichever one
something,
we choose.
before we spend money on equipment and services, then that would go through that channel. But we're just trying to get proposals back from
We're just figuring out who's in the car.
who the players are gonna be, who we can select from, and then they do their investigation, make their proposal, and it goes through committee, finance, and board.
I don't understand. We're gonna put these RFPs out,
Yes.
and we want this request for people to come in here, spend their time, look at our system, and submit a proposal for what,
even though this says RFP, this is really a request for qualification. So you're looking for qualification. You're not asking them right now to
Okay.
tell you what they're gonna do or what they're recommending.
so this isn't really a request for a proposal,
It's more a request
get
for
on a list.
qualifications.
to be out.
No, not to be on a list.
To be considered.
Yeah, it's to be considered to be your owner's representative, who will then, they'll do your engineering design, they'll be your general contractor, and they will be the ones responsible for the work. They will bid out the project from there, based off of the items that you have agreed to proceed with.
Yes. We'll give bids before you select the items, so you know what the
Right.
prices are gonna be, and then once we
Okay,
go forward.
and you said that's the way the legislature required,
It's,
rather than just to go ahead and select you and tell you to go ahead and get those proposals?
yeah, the procurement's
For-
required, and I call it a request for proposal, because that's what the legislation calls it, but it's a qualification based, so that's what it is, a little confusing.
But we have to.
Yeah, so what that process will look like, just to give you a snapshot, is we'll select the date, we'll do a mandatory visit, because all the companies are gonna ask for it anyways, we wanna keep this organized, so we'll have one date, everyone will come at the same time, it's mandatory. We'll sign in, I will provide them with flash drives, with all the utility bills, all the information that you guys gave us, we will also give to them, so they will have all the information that we worked with you to gather. And then we'll take a quick look at the buildings. It usually only takes a few hours, because they're just trying to see what might potentially be there. They're looking for those big capital items, the big dollar signs. And then if they decide that they're interested, then they will submit a qualification package for you guys to review. And then you'll select one of the companies.
So one of the other companies has to do the same thing you're doing.
Yeah,
If they came in, you came in for them, they would have to give you all the flash drives.
They don't have to do that.
They don't have to.
Well,
You're doing it
the
all
only
the time.
thing that's required is, the utility spend is a requirement, but they can get that from your budget.
It just saves them from,
They're gonna ask for it,
Individually,
so we're
going
saving,
Diane.
mostly just saving you guys the time. I'm not that nice of a guy, but for you I am, not to them. But we do that just because it makes the process go a lot smoother for you guys. We don't want this to be a time-consuming thing for you. reviewing the qualification package can be sometimes daunting. It depends on, but we structure it and format it so that there's tabs. And they should be submitting in this format to this format, and you can flip to certain sections, qualifications, then you can read those. And so there's gonna be a lot of meat in there that's, you know, stuff that is not really that important, but it's there.
So when it comes down to it, it could just be two companies bidding on it, Smart Watt and somebody else, and that'd be it.
Mhm. And that does
Submitting
happen.
qualifications.
Small
Yeah.
goals. And that does happen a lot. Based off of timing and size of the project, you know, there's, a lot of our competitors do a lot of school projects, so, you know, this fall is kind of a competitive time to be bidding on school projects so that they're ready to do construction next summer. So sometimes they get tied up in those bigger projects, and that's just, I only work with counties in Illinois, so that's my focus, so that's why I come early and work with you guys to get to that point and help you feel comfortable with the process, and hopefully, it's something that the county will benefit from, you know, long term. There's definitely some good stuff there for you.
I
Motion
don't
to
really see
issue,
the problem, I mean, motion to go ahead with
Proceed.
this.
Okay.
Motion to authorize the release of the
Yes.
RFP.
A, second by Dara. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it, thanks for the questions. You have my info, if you have any other ones.
With the
you need to-
understanding, Randy will review this.
Yeah, Randy will
Yep.
review it, yeah.
Yes, subject to state's attorney review.
Yeah.
And then I'll get with you on selecting dates and coordinate that with Don as well.
For what's in here and what's to be included, is that what you're talking
Yeah, there's,
There's a schedule, there's a
Yeah.
schedule in there,
about? Yeah, I
so,
looked at it, I know. Yeah, that's fine.
and it's really just the opening of them has to be, it's a public meeting, Zach, so you guys know that.
Okay.
The opening and then the selection has to be at a public meeting, so.
Yeah, that's fine.
Very good.
thanks.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, county farm ground lease. Alina?
Okay, so I put this on the agenda because I need some clarification, some guidance from the committee as far as this is concerned. As you know, there's two parcels that are associated with the county farm ground. It's the ground that is at the former Livingston Manor, it's actually across the street from there. Then there is a small parcel where the former Livingston Manor was. And then there's about 6 acres right behind the health and education building is. Now, obviously, the county has been proceeding with the design process with Farnsworth Group. So with that being said, this would be a 2-year lease. We always release our farm ground in 2-year increments. So with that being said, if you entered into a 2-year lease on the health and education ground, then you would be prohibited from doing anything with the health and education building until you were done with that. Unless you wanted me to word the contract to where it wasn't, that they weren't allowed to farm it during the 2020 season. Maybe you want to allow them to farm it during 2019. But I need you guys to tell me how you want that. I didn't think that was
Why
appropriate.
can't we just refund them for the amount of acreage we'll knock down?
Isn't
Well,
that-
we can put that in there,
Yeah.
but we need
That's
to know.
usually reimbursements for crops.
For crop damage,
Yeah.
I mean, people do it all the time.
I think that we should let them know what the intention is though. I mean, if we're intending,
Don't hide it.
yeah, I don't wanna just leave it. We do have reimbursement for crop damage in the lease already. But
Well,
I want it to be clear
Yeah, I
what the
think,
intent is.
you know, anybody should be aware that
Let's not be more.
there's probably a high potential that there's gonna be some of that crop land
I'm
lost,
probably not talking
building,
more than an acre.
but we don't know where, yeah.
Acre and a half. I mean, it's not gonna be a big amount.
That would
I
be-
don't know if you'll have extra for during the construction process or how that will work. I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we're only talking 20,000 square foot building. That's not huge.
I don't even know what an acre.
I think it's
is.
better for you, they need to know.
An acre,
Are they gonna park in there?
43,560 square feet.
Park at this building.
$43,560.
You're sure?
Yeah.
I assume you were.
Yeah, I'm sure, I wouldn't have said that.
I thought it was 5,200. Oh, no, that's a mile.
So you just want me to write the lease that,
In the event there's
in the event that the
construction,
county proceeds with construction of the house, okay.
any crops lost will be whatever.
Reimbursed.
I also need to let you know, Mr. Siegel did reach out, he made his final payment for this year's lease. Hold on one second, let me just write this. So he made his final payment, along with his final payment, he included a request to extend his lease, for another 2-year term. And so I reached out to him and I let him know that the county had already decided that they were going to, go ahead and release the RFP. I think that's the direction that I had gotten from the committee before. So I would relay his sentiment that he wanted to do so, but that it was likely that you were gonna release the RFP. With that being said, he asked for the ability to match anyone else's higher bid. In the past, the county, not recent past, but years ago, the county used to follow this practice that it would open up the bids, and then basically there was a bidding war, and people were allowed to increase their bids, until you finally got the high bidder, the person who was willing to pay the very most. Several years ago, that process changed. The board members didn't like the way that was going, they didn't think that that was fair, and so they decided that it's sealed bid, we're not accepting any bumps, submit your best, highest bid, and what it is, it is. And so he said, well, that's not really what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was just to be able to match anyone else's bid, not that we would be able to bid back and forth. I told him that that's a no. If you want to do the bid matching, the bidding
Just
outside,
get the high bid in.
closed, sealed bid,
Yep.
okay.
Get the high bid, it's yours.
There are some farmers that they probably don't want farming out there.
Highest and best.
It's responsible.
Well, yeah, the highest might not be the best.
Well, that's true.
And we experienced that too. And then I was talking to Mike before the meeting, because I've asked Mr. Siegel for his records. The lease says that if the tenant, if the leasee basically puts down any fertilizer and there's any useful life left to that fertilizer, then the county is responsible for reimbursing them that cost. And so, with that being said, that happened the last time it's happened in the county several times, where we change farmers and then the county has to pay the cost. Well, you didn't really end up ahead because we had to pay for that fertilizer that somebody else got to use for free. So I don't have the information back from Mr. Siegel yet to put in there, but his lease does allow for that to happen, so he could come back and ask for
That
that.
should be taken out of the lease.
Well, I mean, the
The only
problem
thing,
is,
the only thing I can see is line.
I think that's what it is.
I mean, that's the only thing I can see where there's a carryover.
I think that's what
But
it
Because
is.
that's the
that the new farmer would pay the expense of that
Yeah.
line then, rather than.
You should.
Somebody,
Yeah,
yeah,
they
Yeah.
should.
yeah, the new farmer
That's what
should
we
pay,
should do.
yeah.
But somehow, when you look at Mr. Siegel and Farmer A, you know, he's at a competitive disadvantage because he's already got the expense that Farmer A is gonna avoid for a year. Seems to me, not only should we reimburse him, Farmer A, if he's the best responsible bidder, ought to cover that cost to the county. I don't know how you put that language in the request, but it only should be for actual costs that he can document.
When they sell farm ground, like in the fall or winter, they'll, and there's already been fertilizer applied, they'll sell that where the buyer pays that. They know that. I mean, it's advertised.
That's what I'd say.
That the buyer is responsible for $731 worth of
Fertilizer.
fertilizer.
Or if any tillage work has been done.
Yeah, or tillage,
You have to pay
same
for it.
thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is what it says. At the end of lease reimbursements, at the end of this lease, the lessor agrees to reimburse the tenant, assuming an expected useful life of 4 years per line application when lease terminates, and if successor tenant changes, former tenant will be reimbursed for remaining percent life expectancy of line. Example, if change of tenant who applied lime occurs after 2 years, former tenant would be reimbursed 50% of his lime input costs. There's nothing in here
I
that
thought you
puts
read
that on.
earlier that it said the new one would.
No, it says the lessor, you are the lessor,
That's us.
that's you.
So yeah, it should be put in the new contract with the new tenant.
Well,
But
we
I
need to
would
know
have
what
to know
Siegel's
what that
got.
amount is.
You have to
and I don't
know, that's why I'm saying, he has to provide us with documentation.
Maybe Siegel ran out, maybe he hasn't put anything on.
I was gonna say, I take it this is a cash rent type
Yeah.
situation.
It's cash.
And so do they have to provide records to us of what they put on so that they
Yeah.
just aren't farming the ground and depleting it?
Yeah, they do, and they, technically, after he's done with his season, we're, to get our own soil test done at that time, and if there's any depletion, technically, he's supposed to, compensate the county for that, but it takes so long for that to actually happen. But he's supposed to let us know all of the things that he's put on there, but he has until, November to do that. This lease expires in, October, at the end of October, so.
Well, he needs to provide that, somewhere
I'll ask
ahead
him
of
for it.
time, so that,
I asked it for him, I asked him for it
for,
today, but I.
for
just
me, he
didn't
would
get it.
not be considered a responsible bidder.
Okay.
He's been good,
He has been
he's
good.
been good.
No, I know he's been good, but I'm
Well, I think
saying,
he's
if
responsible.
he expects to be reimbursed, he needs to provide that information.
He's more responsible to us than he is to anybody else.
He's been good here.
Yes, he is.
Who, when he turns in his figures
You
to
wanna
us,
elaborate on that?
who reviews them?
Okay.
As to how much lime he puts on, who reviews that?
They would come to the
Oh,
board
yes,
office,
yeah.
is what they do.
Right, but who in the board office knows whether he's putting on enough lime or not enough lime?
It's through the soil test.
It's just based on the soil test. We don't, actually, he has not provided us with any of that information, so I don't know that technically he's put anything on. So, but again, when he took over, the gentleman had just put that on, and so there was a couple years left. And so whether or not he's done anything since then, I don't know. I know that he did his soil test at the very beginning of the year. It was reviewed by the committee. And then if there's a change, we would do another soil test, but I don't have anything from him as of right now.
And just, since I'm here, how many acres are we talking about at, across from Livingston Manor?
I think it's like 208.
208. And then Livingston Manor ground,
That's only like 10.
10. And then the 6 acres behind the IHR, and it was the fourth one? I didn't get
No,
it.
that's it.
Third, three,
Yeah.
okay, 3.
5.8.
There's only 10 acres at the actual nursing home site.
I gotta look at the, survey to see what's there. I'm talking about the additional acres. I think that all of the acres were primarily across from the nursing home. And I only think that the tillable acres was the area that you allowed
He
him,
goes from there to the hedge,
and that's fine.
and that's.
It has
I thought,
it has the description here.
I was like 13 minutes.
I've got it in a survey, I just don't know. 10 was my guess.
Sorry, approximately. And how is this county ground, from this ground across from Livingston Manor, how did we get this?
How did we get it?
How, did somebody leave it to us, or how did we ever get it?
You'd have to talk to,
My understanding is it was donated years ago.
Okay.
yeah, it's been there for, well,
The nursing home is good.
Is, A note of guaranteed payment.
I think so.
A note of guaranteed payment.
That
No,
was a question I had from the other bidder.
I just don't think he should be allowed to match the highest bid, nor should there be a bidding contest going on after you did a closed bid.
No.
And that's why have a closed bid if you're gonna have it.
and that's what we had said before, it got to be,
If you're gonna have,
it
if
got
you're
to
gonna
be
have an auction, have an auction.
Yeah.
out of control, that's why we stopped doing it, so. No,
Is that something that should be?
I mean, I don't understand what you mean by it.
I don't know that we have to take the highest bid.
You have to take the highest responsible bid.
I think he's saying if he raises a crop on it and he had to pay you a third up front and 2/3, he had to give you a down payment of a third and then pay you the rest in the fall or something, and if he never paid that in the fall then.
That was just brought up to me.
Yeah,
The
is that what
noted
you're saying?
Noted guaranteed payment, I'm assuming is if they have a crop and a tornado comes through and wipes it out, we still get our payment.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
they got crops.
Well, he should have.
Regardless of what happens, I don't care,
Well,
we still get paid.
Right.
let me tell you this, we did have an incident where we weren't getting paid, we just sent the state's attorney's office after them, and eventually we got paid.
Okay. Well,
This
saying
bidder
that
has been, this current tenant has been very responsible and has always paid in advance. As was the one prior to him.
Are we clear?
Yeah, I think that you've given enough direction, thank you.
Thank you.
When will be sent out?
You're on.
By the beginning of next week at the latest.
Public safety complex, we had the sprinkler system and the pump cabinets and the flow switches were all tested by the automatic sprinkler company. This is an annual inspection that we do. Sally Port slider door quit operating, we were able to disassemble it. Found a broken micro switch inside, I had one of those on the shelf and we were able to replace it and get the door operating again. The door in booking, the latch on it, well, more or less, we had to disassemble it, and we found a broken spring inside it, and we had that part there, and we had a new staff member hit there while one of the guys was repairing it, and kind of had him assist during the repair. He picked up some training on our tail locks. The walk-in cooler in the kitchen would not maintain temperature. We had a tech come and check it out. It was low on Freon and needed a thermostat. That part of the problem was corrected, but that also acted up again Friday night, and we worked on it all night Friday night and all day Saturday and got it working so it maintained temperature. They had to come back today, and there was another switch that they had to put in it.
You don't have a free on the one.
Yes, there was a leak. They found the leak. That was what they were doing today. The tip skillet in the kitchen was not operating. Staff checked some wiring and other components and got it working again. One of the commercial dryers in the laundry would not maintain temperature. We had to call in a tech to check it out, and he found the temp probe was bad. In the Law and Justice Center, we're in the process of updating our Johnson Controls HVAC management program. This was included in our service contract for this year. With the help of John, our IT man, suggested we load it on virtual server, and we would never have to lose this program again. That's correct.
Yep.
And we were able to make the changes in the program without disrupting operation of the program. It was in our contract for Johnson Controls to have 3 days here to get this work done. It took a little bit longer than that. I guess, John, you've got a few other things to kind of finish up with that.
No, I mean, but we moved it to virtual server, and now redundancy, if our physical server goes down, it fails over to the other server. So we should not have any downtime.
So the virtual server would shadow the physical server?
The physical server will be shut down for the Johnson Control server.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, on an ongoing basis, it would shadow the physical.
It's running on top of a physical server.
Yeah.
I want to thank John for that, I really appreciate it, with his help. Let's see, we had to help set up a 4th courtroom last week during their court time, I guess. Anyway, we moved 2 pallets of water softener salt back to the boiler room. In the hallway, the door going to the state's attorney's office. Someone swung the door open and pushed the door handle, stopped through the wall. The wall is wallpapered. We're trying to come up with a repair where we could repair it and not be so noticeable. And we think we kind of got a plan down what we're going to do with it. Ray replaced fan belts in the chiller tower number 1. Sprinkler pipes and fire pumps and flow switches were tested here at the Law and Justice Center. And that's an annual test that we do. Historic courthouse, Ray installed an outside speaker for the handicap lift by the west entrance. He assisted with the repair of the same lift earlier in the month. Also, we had a small section of ceiling in the records vault fall down. We brought a ladder in and crawled up in there and checked it out. There was a little bit more loose plaster, but enough of it came down, the whole plaster ceiling seemed to be deteriorating. What was loose, we were able to get it down. But that's a brick ceiling in that vault, and then there's a skim coat of plaster on the top of that. I don't know, we had a person come in and look at it, contractor, and they just kind of go like that. I think if you got up there, you could probably take a putty knife and scrape it all down, but I don't know what you'd do with it. I mean, you could just leave the brick or...
I was gonna say, a lot of times these old buildings downtown, they take that off and they clean it up and seal it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really think about that.
Has Abraham looked at it?
No. No, I'll have him take a look. See what
They've
he
got some,
suggests.
I've used it, he put me onto it. It's a very, very good sealer for exposed brick like that.
And we had the sprinkler pumps, the fire system pumps and the alarms tested. It was an annual test here in this courthouse.
Oh, Don, I had Sligo, Jim, spray one wall for me on a building where exposed brick was deteriorating, so you might check with Sligo too.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to take a look. Health and education building, we had trees trimmed behind the building. Staff assisted with the testing of the smoke and fire alarms from Sequel Company. Found a leak in the condensate pan and repaired the leak. This happened on a weekend. The ceiling got wet, some tiles came down. We're in the process of repairing that. Small section of carpeting will have to be shampooed when the ceiling gets repaired. HR, we repaired 4 lights inside the building. We replaced 3 exterior lights. These lights had not been working, and we replaced them with 3 new LED exterior lights. There was 1 exterior light we were able to rewire to get it to work. We also had to replace the air conditioning unit for the south end of the IHR hallway. We had saved a condenser from another unit, and we thought maybe we were going to be able to use it. Well, we found that there was a leak inside the A coil in the furnace inside the building. Well, the new A coil, we had to replace it. It takes a different kind of freon, so we couldn't use the used condensing unit. So we had to buy a new condensing unit too, to get that up and running. We found a bee's nest in the passenger side outside area of the bus they had, and Ray removed that. Also, loose boards were tightened down on the back deck. There are other numerous jobs done, moving boxes to the basement for different departments, delivering copy paper to all departments. The highway department, we trimmed the bushes around the building, repaired more lights around the building. I had 4 representatives from ComEd set up a visit. They wanted to tour the safety complex, Law and Justice Center, just for the energy saving ideas. Well, they were here, I asked them to take a look at the highway facility. Lighting is a factor there, and they're going to send me a report in about 2 weeks with suggestions for replacement fixtures and bulbs and who to buy them from to get the rebates. That was something that these guys, they called and called, they were relentless, and I finally let them come in, you know. I told them we were having a smart lot, you know, take a look at the projects, and they said this was more of a different, they said like buying lights, you could get your rebate at the purchase at the end of the sale. We got light bulbs out there that they run $8 a piece, LEDs. You could buy them for $5 and you get a $3 rebate. And you get that at the end of, or at the purchase time. But not every electrical supply company is involved in that program. So they said they would send the, that would be part of the report that they sent. I know Clay out there has been wanting to do something with the lighting, and I thought maybe this would be something that could be done out there.
Is that something like the beginning, that little 1 to 2 year thing that he was talking about at the beginning?
Could be, but that building wasn't involved in that,
Okay.
in that study. They more or less did the Law and Justice Center.
Okay.
And some of that, I would want to talk to Johnson Control before we implemented some of the programs. With this new upgrade and everything, you know, I know what they like to do. They like to come in and set the temperatures at 72 to 74 degrees straight through the building. Well, that don't work over there. I mean, we all know what you know, everybody wants their office a certain temperature. And I don't know if everybody's seen the email that came out from Judge Botnick.
It's coming.
Well, while we were working on this update, the system went down, but it wasn't because of what we were doing with the Johnson Control program. One of the guys was there working with the Johnson guy, and he said he had just checked the computer and everything was running fine. He said he turned his back and he said he was working with the Johnson guy, and he said it was probably a half hour. He said I turned around and the air handler had gone off. Well, there was no cool air being kicked in there in the courtroom for that long, the whole upstairs. Well, she kept calling down, you know, and she accused us of turning it off on purpose, and they couldn't hear any noise on the roof. You know, we had to lower the fan speeds on them to get the noise down, and so she could hold court. Well, I went up there, I was standing by the fans, and the fans were running 80%. And it was so hot that day, it was like 94, 95 degrees. Well, when you lower the speed on them towers, on those fans, you're putting stress on the chillers. The chillers have alarms on them to protect themselves, and they kick themselves off. And that's what happened. And of course, I couldn't convince anybody of that. But
We just went through this last month, didn't we? You talked about that,
yes,
the alarm thing.
and
Yeah.
believe me, she remembered that.
So
And,
what are you gonna do?
well, I cranked him back up. She says, we can't hear him running. We know it's not running. I told Steve, I said, crank him up to 100% and leave it there. I don't care what she says. So we did. We left it there. And I'm not lowering it again.
That's right.
You know, I mean, we're taking a chance on damaging the equipment. You're talking big bucks there. And, I
You
mean,
know, and to that point, Donna, and I appreciate when you say everybody wants their office at a different temperature and this sort of thing. I think there's some generally accepted temperatures that are appropriate. And half the people think they're too cold and half the people think they're too warm. Now, at my house, it's pretty simple. My wife has 2 votes and I have 1, and so, but we can't make everybody happy. Number one, we've got to run the equipment the way it's designed and as efficiently as we can. And I know some of the things that are going to come out of, well, have already come out of the Con Ed study, whatever it's called, implemented, or with some standards and best practices, whatever you want to call it. And there are going to be people that can't accept that or don't want to accept that. But I think it, first of all, let's remember who owns the building and the equipment. It's the county board on behalf of the people. And we have to do what's right. And I realize there's some people that are going to be unhappy, and some of them will be very vocal about their unhappiness. Share my
I
phone
think
number
people should
with
be
them. You
used,
don't
I
have
mean,
to.
really, they should be used to that, you know. And in every business, it's that way. Some are cold,
You
some
know,
are hot.
I worked in an office for 20-some odd years. Some people would wear sweaters where I was uncomfortable in
We
short
bring
sleeve
sweaters and
shirts.
fans.
But
And heaters.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you don't have to share my phone number, she has.
Got mine too.
Yeah. And if you, along with Johnson Controls and Con Ed and however these studies go, think 74 is the right temperature, then we'll keep the building at 74. Unless you're told otherwise by this committee and or the county board. And she's more than welcome to come to committee meetings or board meetings.
Okay.
Well, anyway, we got everything figured out. I mean, what was causing the problem, and we got that corrected. And I'm not gonna lower those speeds of those fans when the temperature's so hot like this,
Absolutely.
you know. Well, I guess what I wanted to say with that whole point is before, all the complaints we got because of all the noise of those fans running, and there they were running almost 100%, they were running 80%, but you couldn't hear
I understand.
it. And she was the only one to complain.
I understand. I was looking at something else. You talked about this, the door in the state's attorney's office, poking a hole. Doesn't have a protector on them,
Yes, it did, pushing clear
pushing the
through.
protector and everything in.
Clear through.
Okay, last one, to want to tell you how to do your job, but being the landlord, having a bunch of those push-through walls, make a nice wooden plate, stain it to match the woodwork,
What was the word you used?
get across two studs, and
What?
Fixing it with that curve.
Well,
because if you just repair the
Oh.
drywall, put that back.
Darryl and I was talking in the head. He said, well, he uses those as vinyl. It's
Yes.
just backing, it's got an adhesive on it,
Yeah.
Ace Hardware.
Just peel it off, stick it on there, down.
you know.
How big are they?
It's big enough to cover the whole plus.
Well, I got told that was too gaudy, I couldn't use that.
That's gaudy, that was the word I was looking for.
Are you talking to patch the drywall? Or,
Well, this is wallpaper, it's wallpaper.
right, I know.
Yeah.
Just covers the hole that was made there. I guess it patches the drywall, but
But is it a bumper for,
no.
okay, it's to repair the hole, then you put something on top of it.
Right.
Bumper back.
What I'm saying is you take a
Yeah.
piece of wood, stain it to match, and then you put that thing on,
Yeah, that's good.
try to get it across two studs. Then they take the whole wall out.
Paint a picture.
Yeah, there you go.
Can we move on to the,
Can I shake?
I mean, we got, don't we have one more thing? The mosaic, please?
The mosaic lease,
Okay, so, last month I brought this to you, we didn't, have time to get it on the agenda, but we do need to do a formal amendment of that lease, because the changes that I had sent to you last month, which you approved, need to be incorporated into the lease amendment. As part of that amendment, Mosaic is requesting an additional 5-year option be added to the lease. And the reason for that is because, if you remember correctly, when their proposal came in for the lease, their original estimate was for $80,000 worth of updates to the building. They've released their proposals twice. They had amended them, I think I told you that, because the proposals came in too high. They've accepted a proposal, and with that and one other amendment that has to take place, their estimated investment into the property is $145,000. So they're asking for an additional 5-year lease option be added to the lease.
How long is the lease now?
5 years, so it
So
would
be 10
expire in
10-year old given?
yeah, 2023 is when it expires, May 31st, 2023.
They wanna push it to 2028.
They just want the option. So on other leases that we had, like the one that we had for the Regions Bank, they had multiple options, like they could renew for another 5-year term if they notified us. It went up based off the cost of living increase based on CPI, and then then it was automatic, they would have to.
But when we leased that to them, we thought maybe it was a down time, and in 5 years, we very well may wanna get out of the leasing business and sell that business.
Now, when you say an option to renew, an option that both parties would have to agree to?
Does the lock say?
No.
Okay.
That's not really what they're asking for. They're saying,
They
look,
want-
we thought this was an $80,000 investment, it's $145,000 investment, you know, in order to make
The
this
first
happen.
reaction is, I don't know who made their estimates, but,
Yeah,
I mean, 10%. But,
well, they had to add another bathroom, I don't know if I told you that or not. But they came back, I think the plumbing inspector for the city of Pontiac came back and said that they had to add another bathroom.
should
So-
tell me it's better.
Well, I'm not very comfortable with the five, take it to 2028. I mean, let's wait and see it. I mean,
I'd always hoped that they'd be successful in selling their building and they
right, buy it.
wanna come and buy it, we could be done. And have they sold their building?
I know that,
Realtor's got a
I
sold
thought they
sign out
did,
front.
yeah. Yeah, it says so in
I know
front of
they
it.
started paying us, so that's good. Regardless if they're in there or not. They've been paying what they agreed.
I guess a motion to amend the lease except for the option to extend would be
Without the option.
yeah.
And tell them that we'll be willing to discuss it at that time, but the county isn't willing to lock it for 10
Absolutely.
years. Okay.
Or discuss sale
Yep,
in the meantime.
okay.
Can I have that motion, Mr. Mays? Second,
I'll say.
Vicky? All in favor?
At least in Illinois.
Review, everybody's looked at the bills, or at least they said they did. Motion to approve.
I haven't seen them yet.
Oh, haven't you? I guess I miscounted. A motion to approve bills, count those, second by Mays. All in favor? Opposed? Public comment?
Yeah, we seem to have a problem.
Excuse me. Christie had her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dan. I was, just came because Don reported that hole that's in the ceiling is in our vault. Where we have a lot of searchers coming in and our staff is in and out of there. So I asked that you check into it and get the ball rolling on it because I don't want anything else to fall on somebody that's in there. They've scraped off what they can, but if you can check into it, I don't know. We have people in there, all attorneys, everybody's in and out of there all the time. So
I
I
don't
can
want
show
somebody getting
you.
hurt. unless
Right,
it's
if
an
you wanna
attorney.
come and see it, I'll show you where it's at. In fact, before it fell in, one of our staff was in there, and she was over in that area and had moved to the other end, and then it crashed, that stuff
I was
came
gonna
out.
suggest that if we can, on our way out after the
Yes.
meeting, anybody wants to look at it, I'd like to see it.
Yeah,
Because I think it probably can be
But
cleaned
I
and
think
seen.
I know.
Don's been given the go-ahead to try to.
Right, and Ray,
Get
he
somebody.
had come in and he scraped off, because the one that when I was in, you could still see where there's some, I said that, there's some hanging there, you know, or it looks like it's loose, so just need to get somebody up there, and they did, they had to get their big tall ladder, and it's in there, and they did do that, but it's just, it's in an area that's used every day. So I don't know whether to get some hard hats and have them wear them when they go in, or what, you know, I mean, you got attorneys going in there if something happens.
Well,
Is the camera?
I hate for it to happen to anybody I respect.
Well,
Attorneys is another situation.
We have a lot of people going in,
Yeah,
and
well,
especially our
as soon as we
staff.
adjourn, anybody that wants to look at it, we'll go down.
Since Christie's here,